As you grow your business, the more eyes you'll get, the more you need to think about your security. Let me ask you something. Are you vulnerable? Protecting your data is extremely important. Don't be fooled by Instagram. The internet can still be a scary space. At the current moment, the dark web accounts for 5% of the total internet, and all hell can break loose without the right framework to keep your company data protected. That's why today's episode is brought to you by NordVPN. What's VPN stand for? It stands for Virtual Private Network, a service that encrypts your internet traffic and protects your online identity. With a VPN, you can securely access apps, websites, and entertainment from anywhere in the world. Picture a virtual force field around your computer. NordVPN is one of the best VPNs in the market. If you're looking for a peace of mind when you're at home on a private network, this is for you. Also, is that messaging app blocked in your region? That awesome TV show unavailable in the country you live in? Change your IP location and enjoy the internet with no borders. Y'all know the Canadian struggle. Trust me, it's real. Right now, you have an offer of up to 68% off NordVPN. Yes, 68%. Hit the link in our podcast show notes for the offer. It does expire soon, so claim it quickly. Now, let's get back into the show. Oh my
Can't
goodness.
stop me.
Even if they stopped me,
Mhm.
I look like a boss, I feel like a boss, I taste like a boss. You feel me?
I feel you, bro.
You ready to pod, fam?
I'm ready to pod. Podding.
let's go. Hello and welcome to the Hustle Over Everything podcast. This is the podcast where we receive stories, tips, and strategies from entrepreneurs who've done it to grow your business and to take yourself to the next level as a person. Later today, we have David Mullings on the show. Who's David Mullings? He's currently the founder, chairman, and CEO of Blue Capital Partners. Blue is a private investment firm focused on providing retail investors with access to a portfolio of public and private equity in the Caribbean. We have him on the podcast today to discuss personal finance, the rise of Jamaican economies, and how you can invest yourself through Jamaica, through regular investing. Man, it's a great pod. Owen, bro, how you doing?
I'm doing great. This weekend, actually, it was my first weekend, official weekend, not moving weekend, back in the city. So I actually got to go out to the bars and have some fun. It's a long weekend, Labor Day weekend. So I connected with my family, my boys, Andrew, Fred, Charles, Daniel. And we went out. We first watched the Raptors game. We saw how they tied up the series 2-2. I was so gassed after that. Then we went out to my buddy Charles's crib. He stays in the Bisha, bro. Like
in the Bisha Hotel?
In the Bisha Hotel, guy. Like,
what?
Yeah.
That's
as soon as we're pulling up to the garage, you're seeing like a Lambo, a McLaren. Even just like you go up in the building, bro, it just feels luxurious. It just feels opulence, decadence.
For sure.
Just excellence overall. So, man, did that. We went out to Karma. Bro, I was actually surprised, man. Like, as we're going out and we get to the bar, I thought like maybe it's going to be like, there's no congregating together. But, it felt like it's like back in business, like no corona, no nothing, like no mask. I mean, you have to wear a mask like pulling up, but no one in the bar is wearing a mask, bro.
Really?
Yeah, people doing bottle service upstairs. People are sitting at tables. It's like, I was like, yo, this is crazy. But we were together, so like we had our own little section. We got our own like little whatever. So it was fun. So I came back, bro. We toasted it to the mostest. Had some fun. Got liquored up, and it's my initiation back into the city. So now I'm back, bro. We still got tomorrow. We still got Monday, man.
I'm so happy about that, man. I have so much planned to do this Labor Day weekend, man. It's funny you mentioned Labor Day weekend, man, because I have a story for you, man. So I got something to show you first. So
All
you see,
right.
I'm gonna put this up to the camera. You see this right there?
Those beads, those wrist beads.
All right. So it's gonna come back in the future. So mental note. And I'm gonna post this to my Instagram in the highlights so y'all can watch it. Elevated Alexander. You can go check it out after.
Mm-hmm.
So this weekend, I helped my mom move, right? And I show up to my mom's space, and I see her rocking these beads, and I'm like, what the heck? And it dawned on me what she was doing. Queen Petty. My girl always called me Petty, and it wasn't until this exact moment that I realized this is where it comes from.
It comes from.
All right. So years ago, and what was it? Years ago and a fortnight ago, whatever.
Yeah.
One
of them ones.
Exactly. Way before I was with my current partner, I was out here. I was outside. You know,
Savagery.
You know what I'm saying? Remember when we were talking to Spencer, and you're like, "Oh, you was outside." You know, I was like, "Yes, I was outside." And we're at this nightclub, Government. For anybody in Toronto, y'all know about Government.
Government's legendary venue.
Yes, and I believe I got roofied or like something like that. I was like zooped this night, and I think I was about like 19 at the time, and I was with my boys, and I do the thing where you just skirt off and you're on your dolo going to talk to some girls or whatever.
Yeah.
I started talking to this girl, and let's call her Bonnie. And I'm talking to Bonnie, and I think something happens where I just like click off, and I barely start, and I almost barely remember the night, but there's some few key points that I remember. One is that, like, of course, we were like having like a hot, heavy, teenage turn up life in the club. We leave the club. I see a bunch of my boys. We dip out, and I'm so gone at this time. I'm thinking.
So you're still with you're still with Bonnie at this time.
Still with Bonnie at this time. We go to another club. I believe it's called like After Effects, or it's After Hours Club.
It's an after hours type of thing.
After Hours Club. And we're there till about like 6 a.m, bro. 6 a.m, dancing, chilling, making out, all that kind of stupid stuff. And like, I'm still all the way gone, So me and my like teenage, mind, I'm like, oh yeah, you gotta go somewhere, right? My dumbass thinks, I'm gonna bring her home. Like home.
Like, to give context, your mom's at the crib.
My mom's at the crib.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I hop in a taxi, super excited, super geeked, smiling ear to ear. I think, to give you more context, I think I was high on like either like a combination of like Molly and ketamine. It was that type of like, because the next day it was insane. I was on something crazy. So I'm here smiling from ear to ear, like grinning, I had a cashmere sweater on, so I was like feeling the cashmere. Ooh, this is so soft. Ooh, like rubbing this girl's hand, Bonnie's hand and stuff. Getting back to the crib, excited because I'm thinking it's gonna go down in my dumbass brain. We get back to the crib, and I walk in, and my mom is sitting on the stairs, wondering where the hell I am. It's 7 a.m. and I haven't returned a phone call because my battery was dead. And she's sitting on the phone wondering, where is this child? So I walk in, and she's like, what are you doing here? Where were you? Right? And I'm like, oh, Mom, I was just out.
Yeah, and like casual. Like it's like you're out for a couple of hours.
And I'm like, oh, I want to show you Bonnie. Bonnie's going to stay over for a few more moments. Yo,
Bonnie's gonna stay for a few moments.
Bonnie's gonna stay over. She got stranded, so she's gonna stay with us for a night, and she's gonna go home tomorrow morning. Think about that. Think about like how dumb my mind was back
The
then. Was
presence of mind just to say that to your mom, like, hey, you've been missing for a night,
for a
like till
night,
the morning,
and you come home with a random woman,
no call,
random
no
invite.
whatever. He's like, yeah, like I'm just gonna like do my thing with Bonnie, and then she's gonna leave the next day,
Mm-hmm.
and then she's just cheesed at you, like you haven't even like showed up.
Exactly. Insane. Insane. Because, like I said, guys, I was gone. So I bring Bonnie down to my basement, and she's there. She starts changing. She came. Let me give you some more context. What Bonnie looked like. Just to paint a visual. Bonnie had dirty Vans on, high colorful socks, like short shorts, and she was pretty skinny. Like I think like light skin. She was a very pretty girl,
Mm-hmm.
and she was wearing a like panda hat and beads and some like a tank top. And I'm bringing this to my Jamaican mother's house.
It's blasphemous, bro. Blasphemous.
Blasphemous at 7 a.m. So my mom uh like tries to hold her breath in front of her and says, Alex, can I talk to you upstairs? You go upstairs. And like I said, guys, I'm zooked, right? I'm out of my head. And I'm like, Mom, yeah, let her stay. She's going to be fine. And she's like, where were you? She starts snapping,
She
going
just
off.
snaps.
Where the hell were you? Who is this girl? What is going on? Ah! I'm like, Mom, what are you talking about? Look at her. She's beautiful. She's hilarious. You know, one day we're going to laugh about this, Mom. This is hilarious. She's beautiful. She's so cute. Let her stay today.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll go home tomorrow. Don't worry about it. It's cool. She's like, get her out of here now. And snaps, you know. Long story short, we got her home to Brantford. And so for anyone who's not in Toronto, Brantford is like far. It's the suburbs.
It's mad, bro.
Mad far. I think like an hour away.
Yeah, at least like an hour 20. You're looking.
Hour 20 away.
Yeah.
So when we drive her to Brantford, the most awkward situation possible. You know what I'm saying? And I was zooked the whole time. I get home and not only is she like, you're not only grounded, you're done for the next like 7 months, however long time.
You're
Like
done.
I don't want to see you. Just get out of my life. And to wrap it up and to bring it all back, I show up at my mom's house to help her move, and the picture I showed you is of her with her cuffs rolled up. You know what she's wearing? The beads that the girl had.
Wow.
To just to be petty, like, hey, remember this?
She's wearing that.
She's wearing the beads that the girl changed from in the basement and like left behind, I guess. Just to remind me of my most embarrassing time ever.
Your mom's petty, bro. Queen petty, man.
Queen petty. She opens up the car door, and I just see her just like pause with her fist on her chin, like, hey Alex, how you doing?
Just as a reminder, like, yo, remember when you're off the rocker, bro? Just like, remember when you were just like bringing this waste chick home?
Oh my god!
I don't know if she's waste, but like, you know,
yeah,
no disrespect to Bonnie, but
shout out to Bonnie.
Yeah, shout to Bon.
Shout to, exactly. Shout
Super
to
Bon.
Word, yo. I saw it on Facebook the other day, beatboxing, and I was like, oh, okay, hi Bonnie, beatboxing.
Oh, you still friends with her, eh?
Bruh, I mean, on Facebook friends. I don't know about actual friends.
But you've seen her life progress from like
she dropped that video, and that was kind of it. I was like, oh, okay, Bonnie out there beatboxing. All right.
She's just Bonnieing it up right now, man.
You feel me? But yeah, bro, that was my weekend, helping my mom move, and getting long weekend reminder of how stupid I was as a kid.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. But yeah, man,
bro. We all have those like, you know, kid stories we did.
Yes. This is just for the audience, y'all. I hope y'all enjoyed that one.
Yeah.
Let me know what y'all think. All right, man. With that being said, let's get into the business tip of the week, shall we?
Let's do it.
All right, guys. So one thing that really stuck out to me that I wanted to bring to your attention was the power of stakeholders. In episode 44 of the podcast with Tristan Barracks, he touched on this, and I want to expound on it a little bit. In the episode, he talked about how he was working in the film industry, and he connected with stakeholders. He connected with makeup artists. He connected with people around the industry to make sure that he's networked in, right? And I was like, damn, this is such a great point. But I don't know if everybody caught that, or if new listeners are coming in, this could be a great point for y'all. So one thing I want to bring to you is the power of that and how you can really manifest that. So recently, I actually had this in my business, and I was like, wow, this is so powerful. Mm-hmm. When it comes to working in tech, right now there's a few main companies, FANG, Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, Google, right? Microsoft as well. And one thing we have to realize is that these companies do not have employees to match their customers. If you think about it like this, if I was to tell you how much people were advertising on Facebook versus the people who work for Facebook, you'd be like, oh, ain't no customer service there, right? I think there's about 300,000 people to one employee. I was talking to an insider at Facebook, and he was letting me know that there's like 3 guys for all of Canada. They recently hired more, but at one point it was 3 guys for an entire country, right? So that means there's a huge opportunity for entrepreneurs to leverage that arbitrage. What I mean by that is that when it comes to them servicing clients, they'll do what they can, and for the rest of it, it's kind of on them. And they need people to help execute on what their clients need to help. So what's happened to people like Tristan, people like me, is that, hey, you'll find those people at that company and say, hey, I do XYZ. I know you're servicing all these clients. If they need help with this, come holler at me. This is one of the big tips that could change any business, because everyone's out here sketched out. No one wants to click on the first Facebook ad when they first see it. They need a lot more of a quality reference. Of course, Facebook has work. Of course, Google has work. But there's nothing as powerful as a reference from someone you trust already. So connecting with those people in your market is one of the biggest ways to go about it. So how do you go about this? What I would suggest doing, and what I've done personally, is connect clients you already have to those companies. Do you have people in your network that are looking for what that company offers? So for instance, if you're on Shopify and you are working with a small business, connect them with someone on the Shopify team who's looking to have their sales commissions for new customers on the Shopify platform. Then you can go up to, hey, Shopify, you see me working with this one client. Do you have any more that could use X, Y, and Z? Bring money to them. Now, you can't don't just go to them and be like, hey, this is what I do, da-da-da-da-da. Nah, come with an actual client. So you're presenting them with money, and then they can see the value you're already giving and say, hey, you need the value that this person's getting. Use you. Am I making sense?
You're making sense, man.
Awesome. So that's kind of the sentiment of it. This was a little bit more mindset strategy versus tactics. I know the business tip of the week is usually very tactic based, but this one came across my desk and I was like, man, this is so powerful. Make sure y'all use this one, man. And now moving forward to as I work towards wrapping up, I want to put this point forward as well, is Don't make any promises you cannot deliver on. Because a lot of these companies, they have such a huge arrangement of clients on their portfolio, is that if you say yes to that, you might get a kiss of death.
Mm.
You know, oh yeah, going back to Shopify example, I'm like, oh yeah, we need that, and give you 40 people. That's a kiss of death. You're not going to service 40 people correctly. One thing to make sure you do is to say, hey, I don't want to over deliver, over promise on anything that is coming onto my desk and not service you correctly. Let's start with one and then work your way up slowly so everyone's on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, guys, that's the tip of the week. Let me know what you think about that. Have you connected with the stakeholder? How have you found that as a way to acquire clients in your business? Let me know what you think about that, guys. You can DM us at 247hustler on Instagram and let us know. And that wraps it up.
That wraps it up, Al. Great work on that, man.
Appreciate you,
It was coming in clutch with the what do you call them?
The business tips.
Business tip of the week, man.
Mm-hmm.
Business tip of the week, bro. And guys, you know what that time it is, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's the hustle muscle.
Yo,
when we get a Rode mic, when we get a Rodecaster Pro, we can actually press those buttons when we do this.
Oh, it's gonna be so fire, bro.
Yeah.
Yo, you know what I want? Real quick. I want the bounty killer. Turn it up.
Yeah.
Boop.
We definitely need some sound effects up in here, man.
For sure.
But hey, you guys, you know what time it is? It's the Hustle Nation tip of the week. So the Hustle Nation tip of the week is more of like a personal story that I want to share as well, and something that could benefit all of you. So, I'm very big on self-development. I read a lot of books every month on my Kindle, and which I recommend everyone should get a Kindle. It's super easy to carry around, and like you can store a bunch of books in it and read it. I get a lot of value out of it. But one of the things I've been falling in love with is I've been going back to old things I've been reading. And one of those books were As a Man Thinketh. And I've also been getting in touch with one of like the best personal development people who ever existed, which was Neville Goddard. And what I want everyone to take out of this today is how powerful imagination is. I mean, extremely, extremely powerful. I used to read books. One of my favorite books we spoke about in the Positive Affirmations with Cheryl Sutherland. We spoke about Think and Grow Rich. And there's actually a chapter in imagination. And Think and Grow Rich is one of the best personal development books on business ever written. I mean, it's created a lot of entrepreneurs who build multi-million-dollar businesses, and they've all said it all started because they read Think and Grow Rich. And there's a chapter in imagination, and Napoleon Hill talks about how using your imagination is one of the key things to manifest what you want out of your life. So I started listening to Neville Goddard, and he had a tape called Mental Diets in one of his speeches. And this is one of the best pieces of audio I've ever listened to. And he talks about how your imagination plays into everything you do. He always says, like one of the quotes is from As a Man Thinketh is, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So your imagination is actually like a visualization of what everything that you want is going to come. And the way to make that happen is, I'll tell you what happened this week. A bunch of different things happened. Imagination is vividly feeling the thing that you want to see come to reality and seeing it in your head, imagining as if like you're touching it, imagining as if like you are there or you're with that person and you're talking to them. You can, see that, you can smell their scent. If you know their scent, you can do whatever it is, but vividly imagining that you're at that place, you're talking to that person and you're experiencing everything. If it's your business, you're experiencing that success, you're experiencing the growth, the progression, you're seeing people, you're attracting people. It's all because of your imagination. And I tried this. I tried it. I was thinking about someone. Like, I have to connect with this person this week. I'll try and get some time to reach out to them. that person ends up texting me just like, hey, like, let's link up, let's grab coffee. I think it'll be dope to talk, whatever. Boom. There we go. Other things like my um I can't remember what it was, but I just remember it's like little things that happen throughout my day. Like I remember like I was sitting here on my table at working and I was like, man, it'll be a great time to get a glass of wine right now. I was like, maybe I should go to a wine rack because LCBO's closed. And then out of nowhere, my roommate walks in and is like, hey bro, like you want a glass of wine? I was like, what the hell is this? You know what I'm saying? Little things like that happen all the time. I've been just like imagining and feeling as if it's real and it happens. So take what I want to take away from this is you can use this in everything, even if it's your business. It's like getting more customers. I mean, I'm definitely going to use this to manifest guests on the podcast, like for sure. Imagine as if like I'm interviewing Drake, like I'm talking to Drake and, he's here and we're in it, like talking to him. And imagination, like this sounds crazy. I know you say imagination. Yeah. But whatever. But like legit, go study Neville Goddard. Go read As a Man Thinketh if when you have the time, and this will be the best thing you ever do for yourself, guys. Like everything we are and everything we're going to be is all in imagination. It is. It's the feeling you harbor in your body that you have that fulfilled desire. The key is fulfilled desire that makes it come a reality. So take that in, take it as we move on to 2020. And just use your imagination to manifest the things that you want. Vividly feel things and see things. And that is all you need to do. The universe is going to take care of it all. And before you know it, the thing that you've been wishing for is right in front of you. So take that in, Hustle Nation, guys. Keep hustling, keep imagining, keep dreaming big, thinking of the success that you want. And anything is possible through imagination. And that is the Hustle Nation tip of the week.
Boom. I can't wait to show y'all this podcast. I really appreciated David for coming on. Man, he had a great story. Mm-hmm. He had a great story. I really hope you guys enjoy it. Let's get into I was testing you. Let's get into the housekeeping items, and let's get into the podcast.
All right.
Hey guys, before we hop into the podcast, we have a few housekeeping announcements. For free to support the podcast, if you're on Apple, make sure you rate and write a review about our podcast. This makes a huge difference. On Instagram, make sure to take a screenshot and tag us in Instagram stories. It makes a huge difference. It helps us share the podcast out and expand the community. On Twitter, we're at 24/7 Hustlers. And on Facebook, we're Hustle Over Everything. Guys, we were busting our ass, especially Owen, working on their weekly newsletter. It's called the 24/7 Hustle. It covers news in business, music, and culture, all through the lens of entrepreneurship. And for our paid options, guys, we have some great merch on the store. Check it out at hustleovereverything.co. And lastly, our Proud to Pay program is linked in the description down below. Now let's hop into the show.
David Mullings, man, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. How are you doing today?
I am doing great today, especially under the circumstances. So thank you for having me. I'm humbled.
Yes. It's great to have you on the show. It's great chatting with you before coming on the show, getting to know your background and where you came from, what you do, your life's ambitions, and how you've planned them out methodically throughout your life. And now we're here to talk about that. We're here to talk about your journey in investing, talk about Bloomahoe Capital, your relationship with Michael Lee Chin, and where that's taken you. And then we're going to talk about Jamaica. Jamaica is something you're passionate about, and the economic rise of it is coming up right now. So we really want to get your take on that and what's influencing that. And lastly, we're going to finish with personal finance, educating the masses on how they can get their wealth game up, and give them some games. So to start off, tell us about yourself. Where in Jamaica are you from?
So I'm a town boy. I was born in Kingston. I started my life in Spanish Town, though, St. Jago Heights to be specific, Keystone. But been in Kingston since I was 2 years old. So I grew up in Kingston 6, which is one of the upper middle class areas. Dad is a doctor, mom is a nurse. Mom actually met dad at the hospital. They met at Spanish Town Hospital, and mom swore she would never date a doctor. Dad asked her out on the first date to go to church with him, and so she said, "Wow, that's different. Okay, I'll go." So they've been together a long time now, 40 years, and we moved into Kingston because Dad taught at the university. He lectured some 37 plus years to fourth and fifth year med students.
Wow, that's incredible. That's very smooth.
You never hear about that at church date.
Church date, man. It works.
Safe.
You gotta know your audience. So
Exactly.
I've definitely done that. I won't go too deep, but I've definitely gone, oh yeah, let's play each other at church. Yeah.
There's some unconventional date ideas. My friend pitched me one time. He said, how about if you just take a girl to the barbershop, like it's like a very low cost excursion. You get to see.
The guy's going to appreciate that, though. That's like a sacred space.
You're thinking different. He's trying to kill two birds with one stone. You look fresh. You get to chill with her as you're waiting to get your hair cut. I was like, you know what? That's creativity right there.
Hey, try.
That's different. I don't know if I would try that one. I appreciate the creativity, though. You know what I'm saying? But
I feel dead.
Yeah, most definitely. And also, one thing I read when I was researching was that you were actually thinking about being a professor at one point, no?
Well, professional. Well, so I did think of being a lecturer and a medical. I wasn't going to be a practicing doctor. I wanted to do research. I wanted to do genetic research, try and cure some kind of cancer. But I was also playing football, right? I played football, what Americans call soccer. Actually, I couldn't make my team in prep school in Jamaica. I went to Mona Prep, and my team had won the Henriquez Cup for 11 years in a row and Alberga Cup 9 years in a row. So I couldn't make the team. And Dad taught me a lesson really early. Dad said to me, well, you can't make the team. Well, these guys are really good, so you should keep training with them because you'll get better. So I still showed up to training and kept training. One of those guys went on to play in the MLS, played in Europe for 10 years, played back in the MLS and retired from San Jose Earthquakes. And was one of my first investors. So, we stayed in touch. And it was amazing to see what, these guys went through. 3 of them ended up going pro and playing. And to see the discipline that was required, the sacrifices that they had to make. And then, of course, I benefit from being a friend. So I get to go to the locker room. I got free games. I got the jersey. So I lived vicariously through them. But life has its own path. You can set your plan. And we'll get into the way I had put together this plan. I had 4 options. Those were 2 of the options that we had looked at. Becoming a genetic scientist came off the table very quickly after I finished undergrad. And not even just because of me. It was because of Mom and Dad, actually. So I can't wait to dive into that whole life plan.
You can stay there for a quick second if you want. I know the other 2 options I think you said was like a politician and...
Yeah. So we have to give context to it then, right? So okay. I'm born in 1981. So I'm on that cusp between Gen X and Gen Y. I do consider myself Gen Y more than Gen X, though. I would say I'm a millennial. And growing up in Jamaica at that point in time, I was born in January. So what that means is that I could start school the year before or the year after. So I started school a year early. I started prep school at 3.5. So almost everybody in the class was a year older than me. So that meant I finished school. I did common entrance at 10. And so I started high school at 10 years old. And as you know, we have 5 forms. So I finished 5th form at 15. You could go to 6th form for 2 years in the British system. Or you could just go straight to college in the US. I didn't have to do those 2 years. So I finished at 15, and Mom and Dad said, hey, well, you have a green card. Like you've been back and forth in Miami. You've partially lived in Miami since you're 8. Mom actually worked at Miami Jackson Memorial Hospital. So she had her apartment. We'd spend a lot of time, almost every month. So I ended up growing up between Kingston and Miami. So once I was 15, they said you could choose to go straight to university in the States. And so Dad asked me, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, oh, that's easy. I got 4 options, but I want to become a positive role model for young people around the world. And Dad was like, he put his hand on his head and he's like, oh wow, that's not what we expected you to say, but we raised it so we know that means that you have a plan. What's the plan that you put together? And so I said to him, well, I have 4 options. One, I could become a lecturer at university like him and influence young people. And Dad said, well, I'm flattered, I'm honored, but the people who need the most positive role models are the ones who drop out of high school. So you're going to miss that whole group. So take that off the table. What's number 2? Oh, that number 2 is that I could become a politician and eventually become Prime Minister of Jamaica and be a different kind of politician who is honest and does good for the people. And Dad said, well, that actually might be possible based on the way we raised you. However, we feel that you'll have to throw away all the morals and values that we raised you with to get into a position of power to then become Prime Minister. And you might get your mom and I shot. So that's off the table. And so we have a pact that I can run until after they pass away. So, and that's, a lot of upper middle class parents think that way about politics in developing countries. That's normal. So that was off the table. And he said, what's the last 2? I said, oh, well, I could become a star football player and use that for good, right? I was convinced I could be Thierry Henry. That's my guy. And then the last one is that I needed to become an entrepreneur, a business owner that owned a film company and a music company. So we could create original stories, original content, and influence the way people think. And so Dad said, well, those 2 aren't mutually exclusive. You can pursue both of them at the same time. And carried me to the States. We toured the schools, and I we went to a community college. I didn't want to go straight to regular university. Let me start, save some money, get used to the US system. At 15 years old, you can't live on campus. So Mom had to move back up from Jamaica back to the States and live with me. So Mom dropped what she was doing, moved up with me. Dad stayed in Jamaica with my younger brother and sister. And the first thing Mom did was buy me a Nintendo 64 and sign me up for Pembroke Pines Optimist Soccer Club. She's like, you're not coming here to just be a nerd. You need to go and have some fun. So it was so much fun to do that. It was Broward Community College, no Broward College, but our CXE results hadn't come out as yet. Our Caribbean Examinations Council, back in the day that was O level. I did CXE, and now it's CSEC. And so they said, well, we need the results for you to get into the school. We need to know where to place you. Are you in intermediate algebra, beginning algebra, college algebra? And we said, don't you have a placement test that I can take? So they had me sign up for the placement test, and obviously aced. We already do this stuff. Like the last 2 years, 4th and 5th form in the Caribbean is what you do in the 1st and 2nd year of university in America. Like to me, it's crazy. So I aced that stuff. So this is, I can just go straight into the next chemistry class, the biology class. They put me in college algebra, English. It was a breeze. I had a 4.0 GPA for the first 2 years. It was crazy. I got a scholarship to the University of Miami. I had a bunch of scholarship offers. Chose University of Miami because Dad had gone there. He did his master's in public health there, and I loved the campus. And I figured if I was going to make connections in the Caribbean and Latin America, University of Miami was going to be a great school for that. It was going to be a diverse campus, still near to the beaches when I wanted to go, near to Coconut Grove and South Beach when you want to party. Because we in college, and we have an amazing American football team, so it's going to be fun on campus. But they had just gotten a $25 million grant to build a new genetics lab. And that's what sold me on going to UM. So I ended up at UM for undergrad. Finished at 19. I finished my bachelor's degree in 2000 at 19 years old. And that's when Mom and Dad said, okay, stop. You're not running off to school again. You've missed out on a lot of your teenage years. Now you need to go back and enjoy yourself. What do you want to do? Take some time off. Take that 1 year. So I guess I took my gap year late, but I was 19. And they said, do you want to go and play football in Europe or in Jamaica? Because I had been the leading goal scorer in most of the leagues I had played in by that time. And I said, you know what? I know that we have cousins. Jason Ponchian is my cousin. So I know I have cousins in Europe that we could get some connections and try and make even a 4th division team. But I decided that the World Cup was coming up. Under 21 World Cup was coming up. Jamaica was going to have an under 20 competition. Let me try and make an under 20 team. Real Mona FC is where I used to play. Let me try and make the under 20 team get seen by the under 21 program and then get to go to the under 21 World Cup to represent Jamaica. That was a dream. And so I flew back to Jamaica instead that December, tried out and made that team. And they gave me number 10, which is the worst number you can get in Jamaica. I am not Pele. I am not Maradona. It was horrible. We played against the senior team that was in the second division, the National League in Jamaica. And I remember I scored 2 goals. And the coach stopped the match. He's like, guys, come here. He's like, Sterling, how you let Mullings score that goal on you? He jumped. You're taller than him. You're like 6 inches.
Yeah.
And Sterling's answer, I've never forgotten this. He's like, Coach, Mullings has been playing ball in America. Jamaicans don't use their heads to score. So we don't expect Mullings to jump ahead the ball.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. I was in a different environment, and they weren't used to people doing the things I did. So I ended up playing on the senior team as well. And it was amazing to play against people from all over Jamaica, all over Kingston, different backgrounds. And it really opened my eyes into how privileged I was, which I never forget. I was a guy with the brand new Nike shoes. I have my Nike boots on, I have my socks. I go out there, and I was playing against Tivoli Gardens. And when the match started, I hear the supporter shouting, "Don't worry about the pretty boy. Don't worry about the pretty boy." So at halftime, I walked over to this lady. I was like, "Excuse me, who is the pretty boy? Who are you talking about?" And she's like, "You with the brand new Nike boots and the Will Smith looking shave and the goatee. You are the pretty boy." I was like, wow. When the second half came, you would hear the coach screaming, "Mark the pretty boy, Mark the pretty boy."
That's
what I was. Good job.
Were you planning on trying to play professional, or what was the goal you're trying?
I was. I have family. One of my best friends. He's a close friend. He got me into investing. Richie Powell Jr. Mm-hmm. Richie captained the Jamaica under 21 national team. Right, he's one of the youngest Jamaicans ever to be recruited by PSV Eindhoven. This guy was like 14 years old. Mm-hmm. So I grew up being compared to these guys who played at the highest levels. Some of them have gone pro, and so I thought it was possible. When you see people that you've known them since you've been born, you're doing the same kind of work, you have enough talent, you're willing to put in the effort, I would want to go pro. So that is an unfulfilled dream. I have joked that what I'm going to do is buy a team and then assign myself a jersey, and I'm walking onto the field in the 90th minute, man. I'll just play the injury time. I don't care. I'm going to do it.
So what was that point you realized, you know what? This pro dream is not happening, and you got to walk away from that?
So it had nothing to do with the pro dream not happening. I could have gone. I could have played more. I got a scholarship. I applied to the MBA program. Dad said, "Hey, you should apply to some programs. A lot of doctors are doing business. Applies to some other things." I applied to Yale's forestry program for a master's. Applied to a few MBA programs. University of Miami offered me a half tuition scholarship. And so when I called them, I was like, "Hey, this football thing is working. Can I delay by a year?" And they said, sure. I was like, "Okay, well, do I get the scholarship?" I said, "Well, we assume that you'll get the scholarship. We're confident you'll get a scholarship, but no, we're not going to just automatically defer your scholarship. It's either you take the scholarship now or reapply for the scholarship." When you get a scholarship to do an MBA or any master's, you need to take it. Education is expensive in America. So I had to decide at that point, is either going to be I go and try and play football, and one injury could ruin your life, or I could take the free money and go to do the MBA. And my brother was a year younger than me, finishing up University of Miami undergrad. If I took the scholarship, he could go straight into the MBA program with me, and we could save money for the family. So one house, one car, share together. So I sacrificed my football dreams to ensure that we minimize the expenses on the family to go under the MBA. So I know in my bones I could have gone pro. My friend Gary Stevenson that played at San Jose Earthquakes has said it a bunch of times that I could have gone and played just like him and gone pro. And I've played enough. I've played in Jamaica since. I played for Jamaica National for a business house team. I was there since 2007, and they called me Drogba. Right? It was hilarious. We won the championship. I was a leading goal scorer in the entire league, and we played against some professional guys as well. And I never forgot the Jamaica Observer was there. Right? We had a reporter, and they said, "Hey, leading goal scorer, and they want to give you this trophy." And this other guy stands up, and then they said, "David Mullings," and the guy just sits back down. And that is everything. We're laughing. Yeah. And I scored 10 more goals than this guy, right? And the reporter asked me, "Mr. Mullings, how is it that you scored so many more goals? It's like 21 goals in 11 matches. How did you score so many?" And I was like, "Easy. I took more shots than everybody else." that was it. So I know, having played at that level in Jamaica, I'm very confident I could have gone pro even for a year.
So, getting in your investment career, your business career, did this start in in Miami or in the
Oh
MBA
no, this
program?
family in Jamaica. This is mama and dad, man. Dad, both mama and dad come from families that have some entrepreneurs in them. My grandmother, dad's grandmother in Montego Bay, that's where dad is from. Mom is from Clarendon. And so dad's mom used to run a small store in Montego Bay on Barnett Street. And people like Butch Stewart actually used to sell stuff to her for her to sell. Butch Stewart is now Sandals, Beaches and ATL. So Appliance Traders Limited. When he first started selling his ACs, he was selling stuff to grandma. So she always talked to us about that. Dad passed that on. Dad's father, Grandpa Mullings, was an insurance salesman. So they talked to us about the importance of owning something, not just doing the doctor stuff, the nurse stuff, which they did, right? Get a degree, great, but also think about business as well. So since I was 8 years old, mom and dad would put a lavalier mic on me. They would have a tape recorder, and they would have us read Bible verses, read speeches by Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, JFK, and then play it back for us to listen. And they said, you need to get good at public speaking. And if you hear arm, you need to practice getting rid of those arms. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. So they started at 8. When I was 15 and I told Dad about the plan, Dad said, okay, well, now what you need to do is every summer and every Christmas, you're going to present a business plan to us with 5-year projections for a startup we can invest $10,000 in. And so my brother and I did that every summer, every Christmas for 4 years, because mom and dad said no every summer and every Christmas for 4 years until the MBA program. But they directly shepherded our transition into business. Like, I give my parents that credit. And then I will give credit again to Richie Powell. Like, Richie played ball, but he went to Harvard. This guy he came second in a business plan competition between MIT and Harvard, raised 1.2 odd million US in startup capital, moved to the Silicon Valley on the floor above Yahoo, the cover of Inc. magazine in his Jamaica jersey at 19 years old. Like, I've never seen anybody that young on the cover as a Jamaican. Somebody I've grown up with. He's known me since I was born, right? His dad is my brother's godfather. My dad is his brother's godfather. He's my son's godfather. This is family. Went to the same high school. And it just thoroughly impressed me. He shared with me what he was doing, how he raised the money, the problems they've had, what happened when they ended up selling the business, right? They got an offer, the dot-com bubble burst, and then he got into private equity. And he said, hey, it's easier to raise money to buy an existing profitable business than for a startup. Let me give you all the books my mentors are having me read. We're going to read them every month. Every quarter, you need to come to Orlando and sit down around the dinner table and discuss those books. He would send me Warren Buffett, Berkshire Hathaway annual reports. We would need to discuss those annual reports. We started discussing Amazon's reports with Jeff Bezos. So he helped to cultivate the private equity Warren Buffett side of things. And then, of course, if you're a Jamaican and into Warren Buffett, it means that you're also into Michael Leachin. And it just segued right into there.
That's a blessing you got molded early on by your parents, I mean, that is a blessing in itself. And those early years really shape who you are as a human being, right? And that's great that your dad's had the foresight to do that.
Dad and mom, give mom a lot of credit.
Dad and
man.
Mom, yeah. So, like, doing also research and everything. You also built a couple businesses when you're starting up. One of them is Random LLC.
Random Media.
Yeah, Real Vibes TV. How did those businesses work out? I mean, like, looking at them, they were ahead of its time.
Way ahead of its time. So this was first semester is August 2001 for MBA program. My brother and I together, and we had a class that required us to pitch a business. We had to come up with a business idea, pitch it to the class. So we came up with an idea, pitched it. One hand went up. Can I invest $10,000? And we are like, whoa. And the teacher said, hey, I think you're onto something. This was not the Real Vibes idea. This was an online video idea, though. And then we went back home and told our parents, hey, somebody wants to put in 10 grand. And I said, no, don't take the money. You don't know if this is smart money. You just met the person. You don't know if you're going to get along. You don't know if you have alignment. We will give you the money. So, of course, we stick our hands out, 19 years old, 20 years old. Hey, let's 10 grand, let's start. And they're like, no. We're not giving you $10,000 in your hand. We're going to absorb your living costs up to $10,000 so we can stop paying them rent. They'll pay the car payment, the health insurance, the internet, the cell phone bill. You guys need to get part-time jobs. So school in the day, jobs at night, and put all that money into the business. So we got jobs at the movie theater as supervisors and put that money into the business. And eventually our parents actually gave us $10,000. I was like, wait, you had the money the whole time? And I said, yes, but if we gave you $10,000 for your first business, you'd have spent it differently than if you had to work for that money. So we started that. We ended up converting it that December to Real Vibes. So Random Media LLC was a company. Real Vibes was a brand, the platform we built. We launched February 1st, 2002. And the idea was to create an MTV for Caribbean music on the web. So you could come there and check out, studio sessions with Elephant Man, Sean Paul, Wade Marshall, Beanie Man, T.O.K., Alain, Tammy Chin. I mean, you name it. And then we would do music videos instead of waiting to obviously go and see it on BET 106 on Park or TRL Countdown with Carson Daly. You need to be seeing it on our website because there's so many more videos, right? This is the heyday of dancehall. Sean Paul is doing Give Me the Light, Elephant Man, Pon the River, Pon the Bank comes out. So we built that. We had to teach ourselves how to edit video, how to encode video for 56K bit streaming all the way up to 300K, right? We had to teach ourselves Photoshop, right? The person who's now my wife wasn't even my girlfriend, was a friend at that time. She did all the graphic design for us. She did the logo. She helped us with the website. My brother actually did computer information systems. He was a programmer. And he said, I'm not programming a website. I've seen enough code for 4 years of college. You better learn to code. I'm going to learn to do the videos. And then he decided, because my brother is a year older than me, a year younger, but he's bigger. So he's an inch taller, 2 inches taller, and he weighs like 50 pounds more. So he's the bigger brother. I'm the older brother. And he said, I'm not going to interview anybody on camera because, the camera puts on like 10 pounds. So I don't want to look fat. So you need to learn to interview people. I'll be the cameraman. And so that's how I ended up being the one interviewing Shaggy and Sean Paul. We went on tour with Sean Paul, T.O.K. We literally were on Telemundo, on Mundos, on their show, The Roof, on Friday nights, teaching the latest dances from Jamaica, helping to bring artists to go on there. We got to see Reggaeton blow up with Evie Queen and Tego Calderon. We got to be extras in Too Fast, Too Furious because we spoke to John Singleton and said, hey, you can't come to Miami to shoot a movie and don't have Jamaicans in there, man. And we had this little Honda Civic that was lowered, rims, turbo kit, the works. We got it sponsored by a company called Aerospeed, carbon fiber spoiler. Little Real Vibe Civic driving all around at the parties, and they wanted it in the movie, but they wanted to take off the Real Vibe graphics. I said that makes no sense. So they put us in the movie. At the opening, we get to bump fists with Ludacris. We get to talk to Paul Walker, R.I.P. But that guy, we spent 7 days filming 10 hours a day with them, man, and we got to spend so much time with Luda and with Paul Walker. It changed the way I thought about movies and how hard it is I can't believe it took 7 days to shoot that scene, man. The opening scene. It's crazy. But it was, in 2008, we became YouTube's first Caribbean media partner. We applied when they first launched their partner program. You would click a link at the bottom of the page, and it says only 5% of the people can get it. And so we applied, and they turned us down. Like, oh, your site isn't big enough. Well, I don't give up. I don't take no for an answer. So I went online, found out there was going to be this Google tour event where they're going to be showcasing the different products. They come into Miami. Let me sign up, go to the YouTube event, sat in the front row 1 hour. As it was done, I walked up to the guy, gave him a business card, told him what we're doing. He's like, oh man, I got the guy to introduce you to. He made the intro that evening, did the call the next day. The YouTube guy FedExed. He might have been UPS, but he overnighted the contract to me. We signed it, sent it back. Within 24 hours, we signed the deal. Spent a week working with YouTube's PR to do a big press release about becoming their first Caribbean media partner, which means that we could earn revenue from YouTube. But not only were we a partner for our channel, they gave us the ability to allow other people to become partners. I could authorize other channels. So we had the Jamaica Tourist Board. We authorized that channel, for example. Wow. So, but we're too early. That's why I said too early. Like we were doing video on the web in 2002. YouTube launched in 2005. Yeah. And we saw how much money it cost. So I know now that timing matters. I don't care how good the idea is, how good the execution is. It can still be too early or it can still be too late. So I learned to know be a fast follower. Right? Google was not the first search engine at all. Remember, there was Lycos and a number of others, InfoSeek and so on, Yahoo.
What's that
Facebook
dog one?
First, yeah. I'm dating myself, right? Facebook wasn't the first social media platform either. So we're 9 people about those.
MySpace.
Even Twitter too.
When I say, hey, Twitter here, so yeah, we're talking about MySpace and Friendster and High Five. Yeah, I would rather be Facebook. You can be a fast follower. I tell all the people I mentored, and remember, Google did not invent pay-per-click. Overture started pay-per-click advertising. How many people remember Overture today?
No.
You don't need to invent this stuff, man. Just build a better mousetrap.
Agreed. Was that business profitable?
No, it wasn't profitable. We generated enough revenue, so we were cash flow positive. We weren't profitable though, but you need cash flow to stay afloat. So we did have, we had sponsorship deals with whether it's TV stations. We had artists that would pay to run ads on their VP records, worked really closely with us, and I'll be honest, they helped keep us afloat. But it made sense because they could market to the mailing list we had built. But it wasn't. The website itself wasn't profitable. We did some events, so we benefited from the events. We partnered with a clothing line, 8 and 9 Clothing, to try and generate some revenue on the merch side. We eventually shut it down, and we kept the brand alive. So we created Real Vibe Studios in Jamaica with our partner, Kyle Eitel. We are still majority owners, and it rents video equipment and is now creating original content. Eventually, he wants to be doing film in the Caribbean. So that's where we're going to go. We are bringing back Real Vibes, though. I can say it here. I can't say who our partner is as yet. We did agree to it. It's a Grammy-winning Jamaican. That's what they're going to say. They own 20%. Blue Maho Capital owns 80%. We're spinning back up Real Vibes, and we have some very specific ideas on the podcasting side, helping people with original content. And then we will eventually support music. We do think there's an opportunity to support Caribbean music at a global level. We all know that. I know VP Records is there, but we need true labels based in Jamaica that are going to help with artist development, help with promotion, help with the streaming, and ensure that they take advantage of what exists today. So it starts with merch. Real Vibes launches with merch later this year. We have an artist that's already very, very interested in being our first merch client. So that's going to be fun to bring back a brand that so many people know. We sponsored Sumfest. The last time we sponsored Reggae Sumfest was the last performance by Destiny's Child internationally. That was the last Sumfest we ever sponsored. It was amazing to be a part of that and be backstage. So we need to bring that brand back. And this is the way to do it. We can do it as a subsidiary of Blue Maho Capital.
It's amazing.
Full circle.
Most definitely full circle. Switching gears a little bit, you wrote an article about debunking hustle porn. As a community here, we're all about hustle and celebrating the journey. What made you write this article? And let's dive deep there.
I love that you bring that one up because I'm on a podcast that's talking about hustle. So Alex Ohanian, who is co-founder of Reddit, is the one that invented that term hustle porn. Mm-hmm. And so I love the way he explained it on Twitter and elsewhere, where most people misunderstand what hustle should be. Right? Hustle is a weird word, right? Hustle can be a bad thing. You hustle somebody at pool. I grew up playing pool. Like I love playing pool, right? So hustling somebody is a bad thing. That's you hustled me. But then also hustle is good. Like when I was playing sports, right? When I need to do those 10 laps before I get on the field, the coach would say, hey, you need to hustle. And that just means you need to pick up the pace. You need to put in more work. So I think people misunderstand what hustle is supposed to mean. It's not supposed to mean go and do 100 things. It means be focused, be intentional, and pick up the pace a bit. It also means don't just sit around waiting for somebody to give you an opportunity. So when somebody says they're a hustler, I ask them, what do you mean by that? Hustle porn refers to what we've been seeing mainly on Instagram. I think out of anywhere, Instagram is the worst place for that, where it's saying, hey, you need to have 10 different streams of income. You should hustle here. You should have a side hustle, 5 side hustles. You should do this. You should do that. And they make it sound easy. I think there's an unfortunate trend on Instagram, and so many pages are blowing up doing that. That's not what I want to support. I want to support focused work, right? That's what Michael Leachin says. You need to focus on one thing first, get really good, go deep, hustle on that one, right? You need to hustle to go and network, but that's what it means, get good. So when I was playing ball, I was getting good as a football player, as a striker. I was hustling there. I wasn't trying to do tennis and golf and swim and play football. I picked one, and then I hustled like hell on that field.
And, doing what you do, like building your businesses, MBA, playing soccer at a really high level. You're not just taking it, you're not like half-assing it. Did you experience any burnout at all, or
Ooh, man, no, you hit me in the feels with that question because, yes, and that happens to anybody who takes something serious, right? If you play a sport, you're going to have some sort of injury, or you're going to run your body into the ground if you don't take care of it properly. You do the same thing to your mind. So, I've had burnout a few times. We've had major issues. I'll give you the perfect example of burnout after I tell you what Dad said to me the first time. So we were launching Real Vibes. I'm coding. I'm spending 2 days straight. I'm going to be coding. Dad comes at breakfast. No, I'm not eating breakfast with you guys. No lunch, no dinner. Next day again, nothing. And Dad comes to me and says, "Hey, David, you need to slow down. You need to spend time with the family. You need to make time for what matters. You shouldn't be dropping the ball." I was like, no, Dad, I'm not dropping the ball. I'm just putting the balls on a shelf so I can focus on getting this done. When it's done, then I can spend time with you. And Dad said, well, if you put the ball on the shelf, it might roll off and break, or it will never come back the same. It's going to get dusty. It's not the same. So don't put the balls on the shelf. You have to learn to manage better. And he doesn't believe in work-life balance. He says that, that's a seesaw, so you keep going out of balance. What he says is that family is your sun. That's a center, and everything needs to revolve around that. All the trips that you plan, everything you do should revolve around family and then friends. So that was the first lesson. I still fail anyway. I've repeated that mistake at least 3 times and up to last year. And I ran into trouble in 2019, last February. February 4th, I woke up. It was a Sunday. I believe it was the 4th. The Sunday morning, watching English Premier League, and then had a sharp pain where my appendix was. So I know where my appendix is. I have a bachelor's degree in biology. So I'm like, geez, this is crazy. Can't move. Had to tell my wife. So I called Dad, and he's like, it's probably appendicitis. You need to get to the hospital. We get to the hospital. They do the MRIs, and they say, hey, this is good news. It's not appendicitis. So I'm starting to rejoice, and they're like, no, don't rejoice. I was like, okay. Like, what's the bad news? And the doctor looks me in the face and says, do you have a family member we can call? And I was like, yeah, Dad is a doctor. Mom is a nurse. They're in Palm Beach packing the bags to get here in 3 hours. He's like, get them on the phone right now. And when we get them on, I put them on the phone, he says, hi, I'm Dr. Tully. I'm David's physician. This is what's happening. And I won't say it on here. It's still hard for me to talk about exactly what happened. But this doctor, when he explained to Mom what was happening, Mom screamed in the phone. He said, we can either the surgery right now, which I want to do. We can wait till you get here in 3 hours, or we can get a second opinion tomorrow. And Mom says, you save my oldest son right now. You rush him into surgery. We'll see him when he comes out of the operating theater. You save him. And we hang up the phone, and the doctor says, you need to call your wife. You need to make sure you have your will in place. You need to talk to your next, who is the executor of your estate. And then we need to then go into surgery. So I called my wife, and I'm telling her, we have the life insurance policy. You guys will be taken care of. You and the 3 kids don't have to worry. And she's bawling. She's like, no, I don't care. You're going to leave her with 3 children under the age of 7. Like, no, you can't do this. And then we hang up. And then I call my brother. He has a heart condition that Dad has, runs in the family. So I've never been sick. They've never seen me have a cold. And he's crying into the phone, David, you can't do this to me. I'm the one with the heart condition. You never get sick. You're always healthy. Promise me you'll come out of this alive. And I was like, I can't promise that. He's like, I don't care. Promise me that I go first. And so I said, fine, I'll go first. And then we hung up. A friend of mine had to bring the bags, and we went into the hospital, did the surgery, and the doctor had to ask me, he said, what the hell did you do last year? You, based on the blood test and everything we did, your blood work is better than mine, except for your white blood cells being 3 times normal. It's better than the doctor. And he's like, your blood pressure and everything else is better than the nurse who is taking it. He's like, what did he do? And I said, well, I play ball. On Fridays I play 7-a-side. On Sundays I play full field 11-a-side against 20-year-olds and up. I don't play in the over 30 league, right? And I was the second leading goal scorer on my team. I played golf Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I would go to the range. Tuesdays was a full range of golf. Wednesday nights was doubles tennis in a league with a friend of mine. So I walked 5K every day, Mondays to Fridays. And this guy is like, man, you are fit. You're the fittest patient in my hospital. What happened? And I said, I was living in Germany for 3 months. Doing a startup. I was flying back and forth to Jamaica. And when I explained what I did, he's like, you burnt yourself. Why would you do this? And my answer was simple. But Doc, I should do it while I'm young. And this guy said, David, you're not young. I was like, what do you mean? I'm 39. And he said, yeah, what's the average life expectancy of a male in America? And so I Googled it. I was like, holy crap. Wow, I didn't think about that. Like, I'm halfway there. He's like, yeah, half your life is gone. You're not young anymore. You can't burn yourself out. You have one body. and you have run your body into the ground. That's why it responded like this. Now we're going to rush you into surgery. And so they had to rush me into surgery, 10 days in hospital. I lost 20 pounds. It allowed me to totally reconstruct my life and try and fix things. And, I never forgot when my wife said to me after I woke up the next morning, and she said, for the last 7 years, I felt like I'd fallen out of love with you. Because I was always focused on the business. The business was my wife. The ideas were my wife, right? I was always traveling. I'm in Jamaica. I'm in Barbados. I'm in Germany. And she's stuck teaching with the kids. So, and she said, what this happening to you made me realize that I still deeply love and care for you. And we need to fix this. And we spent 7 hours, man, heart to heart. And she said this was God's way of saying, you are dropping the ball, man. So I'm going to tell you, your ass don't. And because I was going right back to that crazy, let's run again, let's go. I'm young. I feel great. I'm not doing that again.
Wow.
Damn.
That is a hustle over everything life right there, David,
Yeah,
honestly.
So, and you know what? So that one was important for the wife thing, but 2 other things happened that changed my life that week in that hospital, right? That's 2 weeks. When I came out, I had 2 weeks in bed. My wife had to care for me one of those weeks. And the next week, my parents picked me up and carried me to Palm Beach. So I couldn't go up and down the stairs. My oxygen level was down to 30%. So I couldn't walk up and down the stairs. When I was in the hospital, mom and the nurse were there. They said, hey, now we can start turning over and bathing you. Like we have to start wiping you down and showering and all this stuff. And so mom asked, do you want the nurse to bathe you or you want me to bathe you? I was like, I don't want the strange lady. You've seen me naked, mom. Like you are going to bathe me. So my parents, 3 days, 3 nights in that hospital stayed with me. And mom would roll me over and carry me into that shower and bathe me, wipe my back, dry me, and put me back on the bed. And I remember dad sitting down and saying, when you have to leave at 7 p.m., if visitors won't see you, you'll see the nurse every 3 hours until 7 in the morning. I have some homework for you. And I was like, man, you're giving me homework in the hospital? I'm recovering. And dad says, no, here's the homework. Tonight, you need to write down every single thing you failed at in sports and business since you were 15, but you're only allowed to blame yourself. You cannot blame anybody else. Find a way to blame yourself. And I spent that night scribbling on my iPad, and dad came back the next day and we went through it. This happened in this business, or this happened in this match. Here's what I did wrong that led to that. There was some decision. I brought in that co-founder. I hired that person. I spent the money. Stop blaming everybody else. That was this weight off of my shoulders. It's like a shadow left me. That was huge. And then, a week into being at home, I had getting all these messages from friends, right? Just checking in, they heard it was crazy. I had 67 metal staples going down my chest. Like they sliced me open to fix the stuff. And I never forgot. I picked up the phone and just called. I called Steve Wilson. So Steve is Sean Paul's manager. I've known Steve since 2001. Called him just to chat with him. And he answers the phone on the second ring. And this always happens. So I was like, damn, Steve, I can't believe that even after all these years, you still answer the phone when I call you with 2 rings. This is wild to me. And Steve just said to me, he said, Mullings, you don't understand. When you call me, it is literally the future calling. What's good, bro? To this day, I tell Steve, it made me realize how many people think about me that way and don't say it. And I was like, damn, I need to survive. I need to make sure I come back and pay it forward and influence even more people because I got a second chance and I'm not going to waste it.
Wow. Like, first and foremost, congrats on going through that and surviving and still coming out on top. And, post that, moving on with your life and your business career, you move on to starting Blue Maho Capital. What is Blue Maho? What's the mission and why did you start Blue Maho Capital?
So this one is a fun one, right? 9 years ago, I was serving on the Jamaica Diaspora Advisory Board as the first future leaders representative for Jamaicans under the age of 35 in the U.S. And so this is, we report to the Prime Minister, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Foreign Trade. I get to go to D.C. and have all these meetings. And the head of the Jamaica Stock Exchange, Marlene Street Forest, asked me to present at their January conference. And she says, hey, David, you need to come and do a presentation on how do we get the Jamaica diaspora to invest back into Jamaica. Invest, not donate money, invest. And I was like, great, I can do that. And so I did a presentation. I said, guys, it's just 5 things. It's actually 5 simple things. Number one, we don't trust the government. So we don't want the government to offer a bond. Like, we don't trust the government with our money to invest it, right? Come to us for education and building schools and roads, but not to invest. So it has to be private sector led. Number two, it has to be led by somebody in the diaspora with finance experience who goes back to Jamaica very often, though, and has experience working in Jamaica. Too many people have moved and literally left. Them just runway left yard. I have never been that. I've always had one foot in Jamaica, one foot in the US. Number three was that he had to be partnered with a financial institution in Jamaica that was known and trusted by the diaspora. Number four, in my opinion, it had to be done under US law, Canadian law, or UK law. It's not that we don't trust Jamaican law. The Jamaican court system is too slow, it's inefficient. We in the diaspora are used to things moving faster. So why not be registered in the US where the SEC rules make sense? And we all buy Apple stock, we get it. So it had to be based here. And then lastly, and most importantly, it had to be accessible by the common person, by the retail investor. It couldn't be only for accredited investors. So it couldn't be a venture capital fund, it couldn't be a private equity fund, it couldn't be a hedge fund. We had to look at a mutual fund, an ETF, an exchange traded fund, or an investment holding company like Berkshire Hathaway. But I was telling them what to do. So 2 years ago, I was talking with Chris Williams in Jamaica. He launched Fruition. And Chris had asked me to do some consulting with them. I'd been at a hedge fund. I was helping them with a deck. And he says, man, David, you're really good at this stuff. Why didn't you ever launch that idea that you pitched to us at the stock exchange event? And I was like, I wasn't pitching anything to you. I was telling you guys what you were supposed to launch. Yeah. And he said, well, you should launch it. I was like, wow, okay, that's interesting. So one person said it. And then I was talking to Joe Matalon. I know Joe, we helped to launch a Jamaica Venture Capital program 5 years ago. Joe was being honored in New York at the American Friends of Jamaica event. So I flew to New York to support him. And when he saw me outside, he said, David, I don't want to read in the papers that you're launching another business, and he didn't come to me to offer me a chance to invest. So I was like, actually, and that was October. We met in December. I told him what the idea was for Blue Mohawk Capital. And he said, you know what? This can work. We will help you put it together. So we met every 2 months. He assigned his chief operating officer to help me for a year and a half to put together what that structure would look like. And then finally last June, I hit rock bottom. I'll be honest. My wife looked at me and said, hey, I'm earning money as a teacher. You're bleeding cash. You run out of money at the end of this month. You can't keep asking your parents to chip in. You need to either get this thing started out or you promise me getting a job in July. And I was like, damn. And so that's when I humbled myself, put away that ego, and I made the phone call to get the meeting with Michael Leach in. I'd known Mike for 7 years. I'd never asked him for anything. I just enjoyed learning from him. And that's when I made the call, and I said, hey, David, you need to be here on this day to meet with Mike Tuesday morning, 9 a.m. You have an hour with him. When I sat down with Mike that morning in Jamaica, Mike said, he's met my dad before. So he said, hey, did he tell your dad that he meet with me? I was like, of course I told him he's meeting with Mike. Dad says to tell you hello. He's like, great. Tell him hi for me. What did he tell your dad? I was like, I told him that this is going to be the most important meeting in my 39 years on the planet. and Mike blushed and he held his head. I said, oh man, David, I hope I live up to your expectations. Wow. Mm-hmm. And I'm laughing. I'm like, this guy's worth $3 billion. What do you mean live up to the expectations? Of course, this is going to be life-changing. Spent 15 minutes negotiating the deal that I wanted. And then he's like, all right, we have 45 minutes left. What do you want to do? I was like, I need some advice. And he's like, great. Well, I'm committed to helping you. And so what do you need? So I don't like asking people for too much. So I start with the smallest thing. Well, we could do like a video, Mike. I could shoot a video. We could talk about your experience investing in India, in Jamaica, and why you're investing down here in the Caribbean, and talk about Columbus Communications and how you made money there, Infosys and how you made money there. And he said, okay, great. When you want to do it, you have your cameras. I said, yeah, we have a film company down here. Remember, I still own it. So he said, all right, we'll work out Thursday. We shoot the video. What are you going to do with the video? I'm going to post it on the internet. I'm going to put it on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, the works. He's like, okay. Anything else? It's like, well, I guess we could, one day we could do like speak at an event together, do a fireside chat. No problem, we can figure that out. What else? So, I kind of pause. I'm like, what the hell is this? Well, maybe you could keep giving me some more advice. He's like, sure. What else do you need from me, David? And I'm like, man, I was like, Mike, why are you so giving? Why are you so willing to help? And he said, David, Jamaica needs more David Mullingses. And I want them to be able to say that David followed Mike's plan. What else do you need from me to ensure that Bloomahoe Capital becomes the vehicle in the US for investors to invest back into Jamaica and the wider Caribbean? And then we just went through a list after that, and Mike committed in such a way that and I still didn't ask him for money. Finally, at the end, I was like, man, I gonna need some money. And Mike said, finally, talk to Arvin. So I didn't take a check from him though, but it took me probably 10 questions to get to that point. We still had 10 minutes left. And Mike said, David, anything else? You still have 10 minutes. And I said, actually, I need some personal advice. I've been having trouble in the marriage. Here's what's been happening. I have my 5 role models. 3 out of the 5, included Mike, aren't married to the same person. I need some advice. And that's when Mike went and talked about compound effort. He got a fold of paper, like he went and ripped out the paper from the legal pad and talked about how Albert Einstein is famous for saying, the 8th wonder of the world is compounding, compound interest. But he talks about compound effort and the fact that you need to push through frustration, push through more frustration. Don't give up. If you keep giving up every time you get frustrated, you'll be 65 years old, put out to pasture and wondering what you did with your life. So don't give up. And he said, David, the same thing happens in your personal life. Don't keep starting over. And that blew me away, to come back and talk to my wife. And so she was very, very happy that Mike said that. Obviously, don't give up, push through frustration. Extremely happy that Mike supported what we're doing. Dad was just over the moon for that. So Mike and I talk every week now. He helped us with our investment strategy. We've been building up a portfolio of public and private companies in Jamaica. And in fact, a few weeks ago, we actually accounted for 20% of all the shares traded on the junior stock market in Jamaica. We've been buying, and it was shocking to realize how much we had bought that day when we worked out the numbers. But we have a portfolio of 15 publicly traded companies at this point, and we're doing 2 private equity deals now in Jamaica. And we intend to list on the NASDAQ here in the United States. So we're excited about that. We want to make sure that the person with $10, the person with $10,000, the person with $10 million can get access to a region that has been overlooked. Perception is that Jamaica, the Caribbean, is where you don't want to invest, but the reality actually is there's tremendous opportunity. I tell people, and you in Canada probably don't even know this, but if you had bought NCB stock, that's what Leachit has, right? Pike has NCB. If you had bought NCB in 2002, and you had the option to invest in Berkshire Hathaway, and the option to invest in an S&P 500 fund. Today, as of June 30th, just last month, that S&P 500 would be probably somewhere around $440,000 or something. When you look at Berkshire, 380-something thousand right now, like it is down. He's underperformed the market right now. Growth has outperformed value. NCB is $2.8 million for the same $100,000 US you would have invested. 2.8 million since 2002. So that's through the crisis in 2008, 2009. That's through the IMF deal, 2 debt exchanges. And you would think, no, I'm not investing in Jamaica. It's too dangerous. Yeah. Well, that's where you'd make the most money. So we need to get that into more people in the diaspora and say, hey guys, there's opportunity here. And you'll be helping to change entire countries by providing access to equity capital.
Mm-hmm. So
where do you start?
Yeah. Where do you start?
You say where do we start, or when, or what?
Where do I start? Where do you start? As like a new person trying to get into stocks and investing into private and
first thing is mindset, right? Mike would tell you first you need to find a role model. Second, get the recipe. Third, don't change the recipe. You're only allowed to change the recipe if you exceed the role model. And so his role model was Warren Buffett. So he's not changing the recipe. So figure out what kind of investing do you want to do. Do you want to be a real estate investor? You want to be long-term? You want to flip? Do you want to be a stock trader? Do you want to be a long-term investor, either a value investor, a growth investor, which can be misnomers as well. But find one person, don't get 10, find one, and then learn from them. If I wanted to be an amazing free kick taker in football, I would go and study Cristiano Ronaldo or Messi. I'm not studying 10 of them because everybody has their own little way of kicking the ball. Study one, become really good at that. So find your role model first, and then you're going to get the recipe. And you can get that recipe by seeing all the interviews they've done. You can read books they have written. You can read books about them. those recipes are there. It's surprising, but they're staring in front of us. And most people just don't want to read and do that work, or they're reading too much and they can't pick one of those recipes. So it's getting messed up. So once you get that role model, though, start. Don't think that you have to have $1,000 or $10,000 to start. You need to build good habits, right? Whatever you do becomes a habit. So if it's bad or if it's good, it's still a habit. Practice makes perfect. You can perfect the wrong thing. So what you want is diligent practice. So I now have the recipe. Let me start investing. If it's $10 a month, $10 a week, start investing and automate it. Right? I don't care if you start with an ETF that's tracking the S&P 500. You started. You're getting paid. You need to be generating income, so make sure you're generating income. So your paycheck comes in every 2 weeks or every month. 10% just automatically goes into that fund and gets invested. If you have a 401k or some pension savings thing and you have a match by a company, max out that match, man. That's free money. Take it. Let it automate itself and live on what's left. And that's going to develop a really good habit. And then you can start stepping up to the bigger leagues after that. But don't think that you need 10 grand to start. Start going from now. Find a role model, get that recipe, and then automate it.
Okay. So now I find this mentor, right? This role model. But like, where do I go to start like purchasing? Is it with my bank? Is it with a specific person, like, or company? Where do I start? The website?
So of course it depends on which country you're in. Yeah, I'm in the US, so I actually recommend everybody go to Charles Schwab. You can use Robinhood, Vanguard. You can open these accounts really easily. In Canada, you have the Royal Bank of Canada. RBC does that. Scotiabank does that. Obviously, I'm going to plug Mike's. Mandeville Private Client is a great place for you to go and start. I think they offer a lot of options for people, and open your portfolio there. And start. And it's not that you need to understand every single thing you're buying, but you can start by doing what I do with my kids. I had my children look around the house. I was like, guys, what do you see in this house that we are always spending money on? And the kids started looking and I said, oh man, all these Amazon boxes keep coming here. We should buy Amazon. I was like, okay, great. And you can do fractional ownership, right? I don't have $2,000 to buy Amazon. So they said we should buy Amazon. I was like, what else? And I said, oh, well, we all have iPads and iMacs and iPhones, so we should buy some Apple stock, Daddy. I said, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, Mommy has a Surface. We should buy Microsoft. And you have a Microsoft Xbox. We should buy Microsoft. Okay, that makes sense. Well, what do you watch every night? Oh, we watch Disney Plus and we watch Netflix, and we live by Disney. We live 10 minutes from Disney, so we have annual passes. So the kids said we should buy Netflix and we should buy Disney. That's a great way for a child to build a portfolio. That's one hell of a portfolio. I will give them that, but they started by looking at what do we do. And then they said, hey, we got to Target and shop all the time. We go to Walmart and buy groceries. Daddy, we should buy those. Mm-hmm. You can start in those simple ways. If you are spending money all the time with certain brands, you know what? You should be getting a dividend, man. Get back some of your money.
Well, 100%. 100%. Yeah. So now I see you want to invest in Amazon, right? And you said I go to Michael Lee Chin's company. Right. And he sits me down. I guess what I would do is sign up for a type of account.
You sign up for a brokerage account, right? You'd ask for an investment brokerage account. You then put some money in there to start. Every firm has a different minimum for you to open, but you open, say, with $100, right? Charles Schwab is easy to open. You open with $100, and then they're most likely going to put you into an exchange traded fund that gives you exposure to those. So they might say, you know what, you're young. You have a long time to wait. And you have high risk tolerance, right? You're 20 years old. We're going to put you into this high growth ETF that covers technology because that's where stuff is booming. Or, you know what, man, you're 50 years old. So we need to put you into a bond fund that's going to be paying dividends and structure it that way instead because you need income versus growing that well. So it depends on your age and your risk profile and what your goals are, right? You need to decide what your goals are. Your goal could be wealth creation for generations. That's one. That's thinking very long term. Or it could be, I just want to save up enough money to go on vacation, and so I'm going to invest that. Or you want to save up enough to go and buy a house, so you're going to invest some and let it grow. Not everybody's investing to retire at 65 or 55 or whatever. So you get to be you. That's a really cool thing about it. Maybe you're saving up to go and start a business, so you want to invest some money and then grow it to then go and have that first nugget to start the business, because odds are you're not going to get money from an investor for the startup at the first phase. So know what you want to do, right? Plan ahead. And I'm the person that says think 5 years ahead, and then envision yourself there. Like picture yourself there. What would it take for me to get there? And you don't start from now to jump in there. In 5 years, I am doing this, this, and this. I own this. I'm helping X amount of people. Well, what got me to that right before? What was the step right before that? And then what was the step before that one? So if you want to be a doctor, you would ask a doctor, how did you become a doctor? Well, the doctor had to go and actually be an intern, right? So they had to go and do rounds. Well, great, you had to be a resident. And before that, you had to actually go to medical school. But before you went to medical school, you had to do undergrad, and you had to do biology, organic chemistry. And before that, it means you had to do that stuff in high school. You had to care about science. The rules are there, right? The steps are there. It's like a game, but we tend not to think about that on the investing side. The steps are there, but we don't add that to it. And we do it when we talk about sports as well. If you want to become a professional hockey player, a professional football player, you know exactly the steps that are required. For some reason, we don't apply that to business or investing, which is surprising, but I guess that's just the way most of us are raised. You really would need parents or a household that says, hey, here are some steps, or here's a book, right? Here is Think and Grow Rich. Go ahead and read that book by Napoleon Hill, right? Or here's Rich Dad Poor Dad. Go ahead and read that. Or I prefer Cash Flow Quadrant to Rich Dad Poor Dad. But somebody puts that book in their hand and it changes their life. Yeah. That's usually what happens.
Yeah, most definitely. That changed my life. I literally read that book about 2 years ago, and I started like buying it for my family because I was like, you don't know about this, do you? Because I realized that like at age 25, that is like the pivot in your life that could really change your trajectory of your life.
Love it.
Whereas if you don't read that, you can literally go down on a whole other path.
That was for me with Think and Grow Rich. I read that in high school, and that's when my whole life changed. I think my mentality shifted where I started my first business in high school, and I was killing it right off the gate. And it was just because of Think and Grow Rich, having faith, desire, and persistence, all those principles. I've read Think and Grow Rich 100 times. I still read it to the day. I bought it from a month ago. Because you read like a chapter and you just learn something new. Like for me, faith, every time I read the chapter on faith, I get some new nugget out of it. It's crazy. It's timeless.
And when you get older, some of this stuff that sort of went over your head makes so much sense. So it's like, wow, I didn't get this from this chapter when I was 20 years old. I'm 39 now. Wow, this means something different though. So books, as you can tell, I read a whole lot. Like I'm reading a book every 2 weeks. I'm not a book a week person, I'll be honest. And the reason that is because I reread the books. I reread chapters to make sure I absorb the information. But those books are critical. But especially reading biographies about what people went through, watching them as well, and see what they did. If you watch the series Men Who Built America, these guys didn't have it easy. Like they had to go through hell at times to get there. So when you read King of Capital about Steve Schwarzman and how they built Blackstone, there are parts where you almost want to cry. Losing My Virginity by Richard Branson. I tell everybody, go read that one.
That was a great book.
Don't complain.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, guys, we'll have show notes link below that'll have the links to some books you can read.
So, like we dug into like your tweets, you're a big Twitter guy. And, one of the things you said, where your oldest tweets is you said dealing with disappointment is harder than dealing with failure. Entrepreneurs expect failure, but not disappointment. Why do you think this is?
Well, you see, so as an entrepreneur, the odds are already stacked against you. So you're prepared for failure and you learn from failure. I can look back and say, okay, what did I do wrong that caused this thing to fail? That's what failure is. Disappointment doesn't mean you failed. It just means that you under-delivered. It didn't perform the way you expected, or somebody didn't perform the way you expected, so they disappointed you. So that specific tweet was actually related to people, not related to a business disappointed me or an idea within the business or a unit. This was people disappointing me, and it had to do with actually capital. Like when you commit capital and you tell me that you've wired the money, and a week later the money doesn't show up, and so when I called you, I asked, what's happening, and he said, actually I didn't wire it. I'm not going to do the deal again. That's disappointment. That's what that is. And as entrepreneurs, a lot of us have had people that are just full of talk. They tell us they want to get in. They tell you they got your back. They're supposed to be providing the capital. They commit. They even sign the paperwork sometimes, and they don't deliver. And you don't expect that because you are now convinced that in order to get ahead in business, you can't disappoint people. You can't disappoint your customers. You can't disappoint your employees. You can't disappoint your shareholders. So when somebody disappoints you, it usually boomerangs. Like this has a knock-on effect, right? It's a snowball effect because they committed capital, which means you went out and committed something to somebody else, right? Oh, he's going to put in 50K, which means I can now pay the PR person 5K to help me get this plan going. I can go and order this stuff. Hey guys, I soon get there. Let me get this money. And then the money doesn't come. And you know what? You look bad. They don't look bad. Nobody knows them. They just say, well, oh, you said you were going to pay me to the PR, you were going to do this, and you didn't do it. So your reputation gets hurt. So it's disappointment when somebody does that because I don't know how to fix it. I don't even know, I guess, what is the lesson from that? Don't trust them. Don't count the money until it's in the bank. Be careful who you trust. So yeah, that's what I think is harder. We do not expect that. We have to eat what we kill as entrepreneurs. And when somebody does that to you, you become very disappointed in them and then disappointed in yourself, as in, why didn't I see that coming? Why didn't I have a plan B?
Next thing we want to focus on is, Jamaica. Like, you've been very spoken on this, being on Bloomberg and talking very highly of it. You have a big vision and you see Jamaica, you said it could be the Singapore of the West. To you, what are the big factors that contribute to the strong economic rise of Jamaica?
So I'm going to put it in the same way that I talk about China. Obviously, Jamaica is not China, but when people talk about the rise of China, I point out it's not a rise, it's a resurgence. At one point, China was the world, right? They were the richest in the world. They invented gunpowder and so on. It's the same way that I talked about Jamaica when I presented at the stock exchange event years ago. I started by pointing out what Jamaica used to be. And so let's think about the history. One of the first post offices in the entire Western Hemisphere, in the British colonies, was in Jamaica. That's where the post office in Jamaica before the United States. Scotiabank opened in Halifax, then in Kingston, then in Toronto. Just remember that Scotiabank came to Jamaica before it came to the rest of Canada. But if you go back even further, we're going back to now the 1400s, 1500s. You think about Port Royal, parts of the Caribbean. In the Western Hemisphere, the two richest English-speaking cities in the Western Hemisphere are Boston and Port Royal, Jamaica. This is going back to the 1400s, 1500s, right? So Jamaica at one point was the center of the Western Hemisphere in the British Empire. It's been downhill since then. That's how I look at it. So we need to get back to that point where we were this jewel in the crown on the Western Hemisphere. India was a jewel on the eastern side, and we need to remember that. So when I look at James Bond movies and Dr. No, the first movie was shot in Jamaica. All the books were written by Ian Fleming at GoldenEye in Jamaica. It means that Jamaica is very special, and we have forgotten that. We need to remind ourselves, say we look about Witalawa. Yes, it's great that we have the fastest man and the fastest woman in the world, and we have the most gold medals per capita. And that's not enough, though. We need to be doing business at boat speed. We need to be so proud of how efficient our culture is, right? I love when people talk about Bob Marley, or you want to say, let's not even bring up Bob Marley. Bob is great. He's done amazing things. One Love, this is Song of the Century by Time Magazine. Well, we could go earlier than that, right? We talk about Marcus Garvey and how he influenced even Singapore, how he has influenced the United States, right? Marcus Garvey helped the civil rights movement. Let us be very honest. Martin Luther King came to Jamaica and he felt so at home down there. Harry Belafonte is a Jamaican. Harry Belafonte literally helped JFK get elected. His endorsement of JFK is how JFK got the black vote. That's a Jamaican who goes sing, "Day-o," right? We need to remember what Jamaica has done for so many other countries and where we come from. This is not some minor history. We are not a tiny map. Jamaica is way bigger than 2.9 million people on a 220 square mile or whatever it is island. I don't think it's square miles, but 220 miles across. So I go further back though. We talk about our brothers and sisters in Haiti, right? This is the first free Black Republic in the Western Hemisphere. Yeah, to Saint Overture is the one that is known, but Bookman is a Jamaican who helped him free those slaves. A Jamaican went to Haiti to help free those slaves. So we need to get back to that kind of idea, and I want to promote the hell out of that and remind us about our history. Right, Falmouth was one of the first cities in the Western Hemisphere to have running water. Black River had one of the first houses with electricity in the Western Hemisphere. Those are all in Jamaica, man. Come to Jamaica and don't just feel all right. Come to Jamaica and learn some history.
Wow, that's awesome. But circling back though, like I'm not sure if we really got to the crux of how Jamaica can.
But the key thing is to understand why was Jamaica like that, right? You know, Jamaica is the 7th largest natural harbor in the world, right? So we have a very deep harbor. So that's so. And then if you come out of the Panama Canal, you run aground in Jamaica. If you come out the Panama Canal and don't touch anything, you crash into Jamaica. So we are ideally suited for a logistics hub, which we already have a post-Panamex certified, port, and that's phase 2. We have phase 3 that's going to be making it even deeper now, and you don't have that many deep water ports to go and dock. So I can't dock, that post-Panamex vessel can't dock in Miami or Jacksonville or Tampa or Fort Lauderdale. They need to stop in Jamaica. So that's great for logistics, just in time makes sense. But here's a vision for 2 other things. Number 1, Jamaica is the 3rd largest English-speaking country in the Western Hemisphere. It's the US, Canada, Jamaica. The 3rd largest English speaking. Most people don't think about it that way.
Really?
Think about it. Population wise, native English speakers in Jamaica. So we're on the same time zone as the US East Coast. We're very familiar with US culture. So it makes sense that you could do back office processing there, not just call centers. You could move up the value chain, telemedicine, telehealth. You guys in Canada know a ton of Jamaican doctors and nurses. We're very, very prominent in that. But imagine this last one, Miami. Right now, if you want to fly to Europe, between Latin America and Europe, you have to fly through Miami. That's your interconnection. Miami is Dubai. That's your connection, which is also Singapore in the Eastern Hemisphere. Well, you need a visa. You need a US visa to fly through Miami. So Jamaica signed Open Skies agreements with some 30 countries, right? So between Latin America and Europe. What would happen if you could fly from Brazil to Jamaica to Europe, which is exactly what Singapore did with the Changi International Airport. So you would completely bypass Miami, completely bypass needing a US visa for that international travel. So Jamaica could become a major travel hub. And who wouldn't want to spend 2 nights in Jamaica and check out the home of Bob Marley and the home of Usain Bolt? So Jamaica could end up being is a Singapore equivalent between the logistics side and the travel side, bypassing Miami. For most people who can't actually get a US visa, we could open up travel because of that Open Skies agreement, which also means that we could do break in bulk. You fly the engine from Mexico, car body comes from Italy, and you can put it together in Jamaica and then easily ship it to anywhere, right? From Jamaica, you can get to China through the Panama Canal, get to South America, Central America, Canada, and the US. Super easy. And we can see everybody retrenching from China. This new global world is deglobalizing. They're moving supply chains back from the Eastern Hemisphere. Jamaica is a great place for them to go and actually set up shop.
Okay, I also want to address the original comment you had, because you said that Jamaica is the 3rd biggest English-speaking country. This is true in theory, but just because it's not the predominantly English-speaking country doesn't mean that other countries that don't speak English as a second language can't still compete.
Right? No, yes, I never said they can't compete, but let's be honest. If you're in the US, and I've had this happen, right? So you are in the US, you call a company, their customer service number, and somebody answers. One, you don't want them to answer with an Indian accent. People get upset about that, right? That's number 1. Number 2, they don't want them to answer with a Spanish accent either. So Jamaicans don't have that accent problem. We are native English speakers. So Jamaica is the 3rd largest native English speaking country in the Western Hemisphere. And customers in the United States want native English speakers. So that gives Jamaica a competitive advantage on that side. But let's be honest, Indians have built up one hell of a call center by learning English and learning to mimic accents as well. So you can't rest on the low value added jobs. You have to move up that value chain really quickly. We've seen it happen in the 80s in Jamaica, where we decided we were going to do garments, the garment zone. There's a famous documentary, Life and Death, that goes there, and they talk to them. It's like, okay, well, I get these shirts from Brooks Brothers. I sew on the collar and the sleeve, and we were competing on price. We're competing on cheap labor. Jamaica can't afford to compete on cheap labor. And as we've seen, somebody will always undercut you. There will always be somebody cheaper. Malaysia, Mexico, Vietnam. We don't want to compete on that. Compete on value added. So learn from South Korea. Learn from Costa Rica. Learn from Singapore. South Korea, which is crazy. If you think about it, 1950s is the South Korean War. You have North Korea and South Korea. These places are bombed out. They don't even have schools anymore. And the government decides that we are going to choose very specific industries to compete in. We want to compete in electronics, and we want to compete in cars, and we're going to set policies that train people. Education is going to be key. Guess what? Have we seen Korean cars anywhere? Have we seen Korean phones anywhere? Hello, Samsung, because I know Ericsson not here anymore. I don't really see Nokia doing anything. They chose to compete in that, and they invested in that. So Jamaica can figure out what do we have a comparative advantage in, and then invest in those things and design your education policies around it. An advantage we have now is that you don't have to do manufacturing, right? It used to be that you needed to build stuff. Nowadays, you need to design the stuff. You can build it somewhere else. Own the intellectual property. There's no reason why we couldn't design original IP in Jamaica and have it manufactured in Vietnam or India or China or Mexico. Big deal. Apple is designed in California, is manufactured in China. So that's what I would say. So yes, we should never rest on the fact that we're the third largest native English speaking country in the Western Hemisphere. We still wasted that. We've wasted that opportunity, that advantage for 58 years. So
yeah, it might be a little bit challenging now to try and have that as the main bet.
That you can leapfrog. That's what you do. When you face challenges, it gives you a better chance of leapfrog. So when you think about sub-Saharan Africa, I bring up M-Pesa all the time to everybody, right? These guys decided in Kenya, is like, man, we have an access to finance problem. Well, we're going to just skip online banking and just jump straight to mobile banking. So their mobile banking in Kenya is more advanced than mobile banking here in America. Mm-hmm. That's great. They leapfrog. Same way that Jamaica jumped straight to 3G phones. We didn't need to get those stupid first phones. We just jumped to 3G. We really don't have 4G in Jamaica. We're going to just jump to 5G. So this is an opportunity for Jamaica to leapfrog by learning from the best. And you can see we're in the fourth industrial revolution. It is very easy to see where the future is going. So we know renewable energy is going to be important, clean energy. Hello, sun. I mean, that's what we're known for. We should be leading the world as a research and development hub for solar technology. Come on, man. That makes sense to me. So that's one. We know that artificial intelligence and machine learning running the world and only going to get crazy. Why are we not participating more in that? Well, figure out how do you educate the people to get into that space. Data is the new oil. Everybody says big data. Well, data has to be ingested. We have to collect it, ingest it. You have to clean it. You have to make sense of it, and then you have to actually interpret it to people. So let's get data analysis going on and getting into that space. Human genomics. Medicine is the next frontier. How long are we going to be living? Right? I'm not going to bring up space because nobody launching a rocket from Jamaica. I think that don't make any sense for us, so we're not touching that one. But genomics makes sense. Jamaica is famous for cannasol, right? Jamaican research. Cannasol. Google cannasol. This is from cannabis, from marijuana. Research in Jamaica developed this is a pharmacological product that gets rid of cataracts in your eye. This was invented out of Jamaica, right? This is a Jamaican research and development project out of the university that grew out of that. There's so much more that we could do, right? They're doing guinea hen weed now. They're doing research on that. Dr. Henry Lowe is looking at that. So we have some. Let's be honest. In the tropics, you have all sorts of weird plants, right, that are endemic to the tropics. Right? You need to be doing research there. Right? Michael Crichton would have a field day if he was alive and went to Jamaica or some tropical country. He'd come up with another book. Jurassic Park was great. He would write another book about some scientist goes there and does some genetics and comes up with some thing, right? So, but that it makes sense.
And now, pandemic Jamaica, right? How do you see it economically bouncing back from coronavirus?
So this is important. This was something that needed to happen in the whole world, needed to happen in Jamaica in particular, right? Because we've had a lot of talk from both sides, both parties, about how to improve Jamaica, how to diversify the economy away from tourism being such a big part, away from bauxite. And we've been so slow to move. And, we're talking about flexi work and people doing remote work, or companies are stuck in 20 years ago in the 20th century. But this just forced them to do it overnight. Everything that they said they couldn't do is being done overnight now, and they're making it work. So it has forced digital transformation into the country, which was needed. And it has made more people now realize just how dependent on tourism Jamaica is for foreign exchange. So Jamaica is going to build back better, as far as I'm concerned. This is either crisis or opportunity. It's both, right? We it's sad that we're losing anybody. That's unfortunate, but still less than 900 cases. We could debate if we're testing enough, but the key thing is that it has now made people wake up to the fact that the fourth industrial revolution is real. It is here, and you can't wait 10 years because you're going to be dead. Your company will not be able to compete. Your company will not be able to hire anybody because they're not going to want to work for no dinosaur. And they're going to now realize that we have to invest in those areas. Otherwise, the country itself will drown in debt. Thankfully, Jamaica was perfectly positioned for this, right? We had done 2 debt exchanges, and debt to GDP ratio fell below 100% for the first time in like 25 years. And it's on its way down to 60% debt to GDP ratio in the next 5 years, which I wish the United States could say the same thing as a U.S. citizen living here. So that is amazing for Jamaica to have done that and continue doing it without the IMF standing over them. We don't need a big stick. We got so fed up with the way Jamaica was going that we turned the ship. And then COVID came and said, you need to turn the ship even faster. We have turned that ship, right? They have a post-COVID recovery plan that has come out. It came out on June 30th. Michael Leach sent it to me. It was prepared by a massive panel of some of the smartest people in Jamaica and business people. And it was overseen by the Minister of Finance. 135-page document. I have been thoroughly impressed by seeing where they want to go in Jamaica with, improving safety nets, investing in education, digital transformation of the entire economy so you can pay things online. We've been doing great in the Doing Business Index. Like Jamaica is ranked very high for setting up a business. I think we're in the top 30 now in the whole world for ease of setting up, ease of starting a business. So the new Jamaica is on its way. Jamaica 2.0 is how I would call it. And I am thoroughly excited. Best time to invest in a country is when they're going from inefficiency to efficiency. And you get to be a part of that. That's when you get to capture more value and participate in that. I mean, help other people build a better mousetrap. So invest on the way up. Don't invest when it's perfect. Mike would say you pay for perfection. Right? We don't want to pay for perfection. You get in early, be a part of that story, help to influence people positively, and benefit from that rise. So Jamaica is resurging again, in my opinion, and will come back from COVID much, much smarter.
Yeah, man, it looks like it. So speaking of that, have you? Well, actually, I should say this. What's the usual investment period that you're thinking of for someone that's investing in Jamaica? Are you saying like a 10 to 15 year? Because like, for example, you gave, I think you said it was like 2003 to 2020. Yeah. Are you talking about like small term investing of like 2 years, 3 years? Well, this is like 15, 20. Like,
So I'm a Warren Buffett guy. So I'm just going to repeat Warren Buffett. My favorite holding period is forever. Just if I buy into something, I want to be able to hold it forever, unless something changes that says, it's no longer good. My investment is based on buying a piece of a business, and that business is going to then throw off cash for as long as I own it. When it stops throwing off cash, then I need to reevaluate if there's a problem there. But I am investing because it's going to generate profits, pay dividends to me every year. Why would I give it up? If I bought a house that I rented out, I paid $1 million for the house. I rent it out for $5,000 a month. It's paid me $60,000 a year. Am I going to sell it in year 5 just because it still paid me? As long as it's still paying me, the value has gone up, but I don't need to sell it. I want that income. It's paying me. Businesses aren't houses. It's not stuck at $5,000 a month. It's growing, so it might pay me $60,000 the first year, might dip and pay me $30,000 the next year. But things are taking up. I can get to $100,000 a year. $500,000 a year. The business tripled, quadrupled, 10 times larger. So that is how I think of investing. Right? I would have wanted to own Apple since 1984. You shouldn't have sold. If you held Amazon, you're quite happy right now. Netflix, all of these guys. So I think at least on a 10-year horizon. At minimum, everything we're buying is based on a 10-year horizon.
Got you. Okay. So minimum a 10-year horizon. And I guess you're saying is we're looking for the dividends as payout to get income for this.
Yeah, we want companies that are going to be able to generate free cash flow, right? We want companies that are going to not just grow the value of the company, but they're going to pay us to wait. Like, I should get paid for taking a risk, right? So I want to look for companies like that, which is interesting when we talk about Berkshire Hathaway, because Berkshire doesn't pay a dividend. So that's the only qualm I have with Warren Buffett. But he would say that he's done a better job of reinvesting that capital and compounding it over years at 20% a year. So if the CEO can compound it, then great, let the CEO compound it. But in most cases, you should be investing to get a check. You can reinvest the dividend, but if you started a business today, you expect that business to pay you something. It should generate profits and put money in your pocket other than just getting a salary. That's the point of the business. It's supposed to pay you a share of the profits. If I invest in the business, it's the same thing. I didn't start it, somebody else runs it, but I expect you to pay me a share of the profits. Some years you're not going to be profitable, but pay me a share of the profits. Jamaica is the same, and the businesses in Jamaica, a lot of them, the ones we're buying, aren't just in Jamaica. Right? They're listed in Jamaica, but they're doing business all over the world, all over the Caribbean. There's some that we own shares in that they're in Ghana, right, and they're selling into China. I was looking at one's report this morning. It's a Barbados-based company that's listed in Jamaica, majority controlled by a Jamaican firm, and they're in 14 countries, mostly Latin American countries, right? They're in Guatemala, Colombia, Peru, Bolivia, and I was like, man, how many people don't know this company is officially headquartered in Jamaica, registered in Barbados, and listed in Jamaica as a US dollar stock. So you don't even have any foreign exchange rate risk. It's a US dollar stock. That's a great opportunity. And I can't go on the NASDAQ and buy it, or I can't go on the New York Stock Exchange and buy it, because there's no exchange traded fund or mutual fund with exposure to Jamaica. So when Bloomer Whole Capital gets listed, we are the stock that people would buy to get that exposure. And the exchange traded funds will buy our stock to put it in there for their emerging markets exposure as well. So we get to solve a problem for a bunch of people.
So for like the person coming into buying investments and purchasing stock, there's many different instruments they can get started with. They can go straight equity. They can do ETFs, mutual funds, bonds. What do you advise to the person who is looking to get started with investing? Their risk appetite might not be as high of like buying a singular stock.
Right. So I'm not a registered financial advisor. I always start with that. So my advice is go and find a registered financial advisor and then let them work with you. They will help you figure out what is the right financial plan for you, and what are the things that you should get into based on your age and based on your risk tolerance. Most people do not have the stomach to buy an S&P 500 ETF, right? You'd buy the Vanguard ETF. And you know what would have happened in what, this is late February, March of this year in America? They probably would have had a heart attack when they see it go down 40%. Yeah. And they might have pulled out the money because they wouldn't have the temperament to have stayed through that trough and see it jump 30+% again. So most people don't have the temperament to actually track an index. So you need to talk to a licensed financial advisor and allow them to help you understand what you're buying, right? Warren Buffett says never buy anything that you don't understand. So learn it. If a financial advisor tells you to buy something and you don't know what it is, ask them for some information first. Go do some Google research, go watch some videos on YouTube, ask some friends about it as well before you go and buy it. Don't assume that they are acting in your best interest all the time. Assume that you should still understand what you own, understand what you're about to buy.
Proper. Kind of like going back to you now, right? Your relationship with Michael Lee Chin has gone really close, and you appeared on a magazine cover with him. Yeah. That must have been huge for you, like coming from your side of everything. And how did that end up happening?
So this is a crazy story, right? So I was in the hospital for 10 days, and one of the things I did one of the days was put together my own Fortune magazine cover. Mm-hmm. So I put myself on the cover of Fortune, and I decided to actually write an article. So there's a famous magazine interview with Mike on the cover called Dolce. So I took took some of that, changed it to me, and then I added 3 more pages of my actual life. And what I did was write out 80% already happened, the 20% that hasn't happened as yet. And then I prayed that night and said, God, if I get a second chance, I'll make this happen. I then emailed that to 13 friends and family members of mine. One of them happens to be a magazine owner that I had helped years. I helped him 3 years ago to put together his deck at no cost. Just help him to put together a deck for the investment bank to help him raise money. And I sent it to him, Derwent Donaldson. He publishes Jamaica Paradise. And he read it. He called me next day and said, David, man, this was so amazing. You've done most of this stuff. Please give me first dibs. I want first rights to tell your story when it's time, please. And so I said, all right. So we stayed in touch, and then, as Bloomahoe Capital was taking shape last year, Derwin said to me, this is now August. He said, hey, we want to do the magazine shoot. We want to put you on the cover. So we did the shoot July, sent in the photos. And he's like, can you get a quote from Leachin? So of course, Mike was like, of course I'll give you a quote. So Mike gave me these quotes. They put it in there, and they read it. And I said, man, the editor really likes this. We think it would really work if Mike would be on the cover with you. And I was like, guys, Mike never goes on the cover with anybody. He was on the cover of Black Enterprise by himself. Like, why would Mike do a cover photo with me? I'm nobody right now. And he's like, just ask him. So I reached out to Mike, and Mike said, yeah, I would do it. And I asked him, I was like, why would you go on the cover with little David Mullings? And Mike said, David, anybody that Googles it would say, great story, impressive guy, hasn't made it as yet, though. Hasn't made it as yet. He's like, but if I am on the cover with you, they're going to Google you, see this cover with me on it beside you, and they're going to say, you know what? Let me take that meeting from David, because that guy beside him is worth more than me. At least if I can get to David, David can introduce me to Mike. So he said, let's do the photo. So I flew down, and so we had to push back the cover by 3 months. And so I had to fly down to Jamaica. We did the photo shoot. We took about 72 photos. We figured at least one would work. So we did the photos right after his NCB board meeting in the boardroom. We have some that will come out eventually. Send it off, work with Mike and his assistant to rewrite the article to put in a bit more of Mike in there as well. So it wasn't just a David thing. It was David and Mike. And then we sent it off, and it just took off like fire. Mike sent it around, and it was so interesting. Me creating my own Fortune magazine cover, sending it out to people, led to a cover story, which then led to Mike and I on the cover, which led to Mike sending it out, putting physical copies in NCB Capital Markets, his investment firm in Jamaica. And Bloomberg called NCB Cap Markets, say, hey, you have this Trans-Jamaica Highway IPO coming out. That was February this year, the largest IPO in Jamaica's history. NCB Cap Markets is a book runner for it, right? They're the underwriters. And the guy, the interviewer from Bloomberg says, by the way, how comes there's still no exchange-traded fund with exposure to Jamaica, even though there are exchange-traded funds with exposure to Sri Lanka and Kazakhstan and Vietnam? And the guy said, I don't know, but I just read this article. You need to talk to David Mullings. He's the only person in the world trying to solve that problem. And that same afternoon, they went on my website, filled out the contact form. I did an interview with Bloomberg that evening. They quoted me 2 days later. The evening it came out, Bloomberg TV called me and said, hey, we just saw you quoting this article. It was a great story. We want you on TV next week. And I was like, I'll fly to New York and I'll be there on camera. So that's what it happened. Like me lying down in bed saying, man, I might die. I need to tell my story. I want to be on Fortune one day. And I sent it out to people. And it just and then Mike said yes.
He spoke it to existence.
Crazy, but when you Mike is somebody that people really, unless you know him, it's hard to understand how humble and how giving this guy is, right? Mm-hmm. Mike and I joke that I'm literally 30 years from him. He's January 19. He's January 1951. I'm January 1981. So I joke that I'm always following him. We're 30 years apart, and so there's something similar about us. But on Father's Day, I haven't spoken about this one publicly yet. I'm going to do it here, and you guys get an exclusive. On Father's Day, I messaged Mike that Sunday morning, right, to say, Happy Father's Day, Mike. I think of you like a second father. My dad knows, and we're both so appreciative of everything that you've done for us and everything that you represent. And Mike messages me back to say, happy, talking about kids. I want to see pictures of my kids. So I send him the 3 kids. I have 2 boys and a little girl. And so I send him the pictures. He calls me 5 minutes later. And I'm looking at the phone like, why is Mike calling me? This is so crazy that he calls me. He calls and he says, David, I looked at your 2 beautiful boys, 7 and 8 years old, and it dawned on me that with all of what is happening right now in the world, and especially in the US, they will soon be old enough that every time they leave your house, you and your wife are going to be worried about whether or not they come back alive. We, and I will emphasize we, need to have a plan to invest in Jamaica in such a way that your boys can choose to live in Jamaica without giving up anything that they'd have access to in the US. What is our plan, David? And I laid out this plan for him, and he said, yes, that will work. I look forward to doing that with you, David. And then we hung up. And I called my dad and I cried. I was like, I never even thought about it this way. Right? He's the one bringing that up and saying, in a few years, you're going to be worried about it. You need to invest in a way to do it, and I will help you. He doesn't have to do that. I'm still nobody as far as I'm concerned. He does not have to do that. He does not have to be so nice, so humble, so giving, and putting his reputation at risk. So I've never met anybody like that. And even Dad to this day is just still blown away. I'll never forget when I flew down to do the photo shoot in November in Jamaica. While they were setting up the camera and the lights, Mike asked me, "How are you doing, David?" And I immediately started talking about business. "Oh, I'm excited. This is how." He's like, "No. I didn't ask you how the business is doing. I asked, how are you doing, David? You're still undergoing treatment. Like I had to do quarterly visits for 18 months to my doctor. I just got signed off, finally healthy last month." And Mike is like, "How are you doing mentally, physically? How are you doing?" And I had to sit back in a chair and say, "Wow, Mike, like nobody other than my family has ever asked me how am I doing and meant me, like me, right? They're talking about business. That's what they really mean. How are you doing in life?" And he's like, no, how are you doing? I was like, man. He's like, "Are you healthy? How are things going?" I was like, man, I can't believe you actually care. He's like, "Yeah, no, we don't talk about business first. We need to talk about us first. Take care of us so that we can then give to people. You can't fill from, right? Can't pour from an empty cup." I was like, man, this guy is amazing. He's like my little Buddha, is how I think of him.
What are some of, like, if you can think with your relationship with Michael Lee Chin so far, what's one piece of advice that he's given you that this is like the way you govern yourself throughout your family, your personal life, and your business?
Wow. So if I had to pick one thing, is Mike talking about legacy. You need to think about what will my legacy be 100 years from now. And you can choose, do I want my legacy to just be within the family? Do I want it to be within my village, my town, my city, my country, the world? But what do I want those people to think of me 100 years from now? If you think that way, you act in very specific ways, right? And you don't do certain things as well. So Mike hammering away on legacy has just been transformational for me, because it is a reminder to not be afraid, right? You should be bold. In most cases, people are afraid to talk about the things they're doing, even when you're doing well. But especially when you're just starting, you feel you have this imposter syndrome. "Oh, I don't deserve to be on the cover of a magazine with a billionaire," right? And there are people who have said that to me. "Oh, you're just on the cover of a magazine with a billionaire, but you're not rich." It's like, and are you on the cover? Right? Like, so people want to downplay and basically diss you and say you don't deserve to be there. But then you have to remember, man, I could die tomorrow. And I know that. I thought I was invincible, right? When you're young, you really think invincible. I know when I was lying in that bed as I was going into surgery, and I thought to myself, I've influenced so many people, right? Thousands of people in Jamaica. I can talk about my columns I wrote for 3 years every Sunday, speaking engagements I've done, entrepreneurs I've supported and invested in. I could have done more, though. That's all I kept thinking when I was in bed before I went to surgery. I could have done more. Why did I not do more? Oh, because I was scared of what people would say. I was scared people would say, "You're talking up too early. You haven't made your first million. You haven't done it yet." And coming out of that bed, I was like, you know what? I don't care, because I could just die tomorrow. So let me go and present. Let me talk. Let me tell my story. Let me inspire as many people as possible. So the next time I'm on a bed, I'm not thinking, damn, I could have done more. I'm going to be thinking, damn, I did a good job.
Yeah. Amazing, man.
Legacy. That's a perfect note to work towards wrapping up on. So once again, I just want to thank you for coming on the show, man. Really appreciate you.
We're going to get Mike on the show next time.
Oh, for sure.
We got to do a part two. We got to do a part two.
Yeah, man. That would be you guys. Oh man, you guys the same way I get those goosebumps when I talk to him and I get those nuggets. You guys are going to get the same thing. Your listeners are going to get the same thing. And to have Mike and I going back and forth, I think is going to be something special. So I commit to getting that done.
Yeah, we can't wait to meet Mike. You know, the way you speak about him, I'm sure, like, you know, he's one of the billionaires I know who's Black and Canadian. Like, I think he's the only one, right? So reading Forbes all the time, I've been seeing him, and I was like, damn, like, how's this guy get here? And now we met you, and we can hear how he impacted you, and we can't wait to get that opportunity when it comes to just soak in all the knowledge and all the game he's had over his career, and hopefully we can all of us make it to Forbes one day and be billionaires and impact our communities. You know,
we got the role model, we got the recipe, so let's hustle and execute.
Precisely.
Most definitely, it's about executing. You know, where can people find you?
But you know, so it might sound a little crazy, but you can just Google me. If you Google David Mullings, I own the first like 10 pages. But davidmullings.com, easiest way to find me on the personal side. You get to learn a lot more about me. You can see the short film I made about Jamaica's railroad history. And then bluemahoecapital.com, MAHOE, that's Jamaica's national tree, actually. So bluemahoecapital.com is the business side. And the contact form is there. It goes straight to me. I'm super accessible on Twitter, especially, and on Instagram. DM me. It's not somebody else checking their account. It's actually me checking their account. It's me replying. It's me posting. And that's where we're going to be. And that's what I intend to do. I want to keep giving as much as I can for as long as I'm alive.
Most definitely. And with that being said, that wraps up the podcast. Remember, your hustle is what you could control. So control your grind, control your life. Peace.
So.